At Lake Ella for Hands Across the Sand with a Rethink Energy Group event, and the Sierra Club. This is Kim.
And 350.
And 350.org.
I'm gonna give this device to my husband so he can.
Kim was last seen at the Capitol building demonstrating against the Keystone Pipeline. We all like to applaud her for that.
All right. So we decided what? We decided on Wednesday, after several folks reached out to me and said, "Hey, let's, are you doing this? Who's doing this?" The closest place is in Fort Walton to Tallahassee, and so it really is a part of our history, Rethink Energy Florida's history. For those of you who don't remember or weren't here, back in 2010, during the time of the oil spill, we got around 1,000 people here, and it was a Hands Across the Sand event, and that was kind of the birth of Rethink Energy Florida, and so it did seem natural for us to go ahead and step up and do it, especially since everybody, Candy and Teresa, were like, "Hey, are you doing this?" So it was a very last minute decision, and look at everybody that showed up as a result. This is great. You guys really rock. I appreciate everybody being here. So we're a part of a much larger movement today. Our movement for today is Hands Across the Sand. It actually started in Florida before the oil spill. In February of 2010 was the very first Hands Across the Sand event for Florida. It was started by Dave Rashkov and his sister and some other folks, and they said, every year in the Florida legislature, we're fighting to keep a moratorium on offshore oil drilling. So we, the people, need to stand up and say, no, we don't want offshore oil drilling. We want to. So they started in February, and in February, actually the very first one in Tallahassee, Rick Miner and a few other folks put it together, and it was here where we're standing. And so then the oil spill happened right after that. And of course our Gulf is not the same as it was back then, and of course also we learned, and we've been learning throughout the course of the many years that we've been fighting, that it really is about people stepping up, individuals, everybody having a voice. And so now we join with thousands of people across Florida, tens of thousands of people probably or more across the United States, to say no, we need to go on to fossil fuels. And we especially join with our folks in Naples, Florida, who probably have a few more folks out there because they're at ground zero, right? For those of you who aren't familiar, haven't heard me in the last 6 months or so, they are working on fracking in Florida today. So, we've been down to Naples a couple of times, and we went down to the EPA and DEP hearings, where they were the EPA hearing trying to decide whether or not to allow an injection class 2 injection well for the wastewater coming out of fracking, and then the DEP hearing was actually forced on them by an administrative hearing officer after they ignored the process, allowed an exploratory well, or several exploratory wells, and an administrative hearing officer said, no, you have to consult this advisory committee. The advisory committee actually said, after 300 people showed up at their first hearing, and then after another hearing, and an all-day hearing evidently, the advisory committee did actually make the right decision and advised DEP to reject the exploratory well. At the same time, however, the company in question, Dan Hughes, was actually illegally fracking while that whole process was going on. DEP knew it, didn't say anything about it, and didn't say anything about it at the hearing, but eventually put out a press release saying that they had fined $25,000 to the Dan A. Hughes committee. That's a lot of money for me, but that's chump change for an oil company. So after Bill Nelson has now gotten involved, and he has also said, we need to not allow any of this, especially from this particular company, who's evidently more than willing to ignore the people around them, the safety and the hazards that are there, and just go ahead and do it. And so right now, that's where we're at, is that DEP has actually asked Dana Hughes not to do any more drilling, and there's legal processes in place. I go over that just because for those of you who follow me on Facebook, what I said is true. It's not just out there, It's not just this Keystone XL pipeline, whose primary impact to Florida would be the horrific climate change impacts that we in Florida will feel probably as bad, if not worse, than the rest of the United States, especially from a sea level rise. It's not, and that it's not just there. It's already begun, and until we get to the point where we're actually using renewable energy, moving forward fast on renewable energy, then we're going to keep looking for ways to get fossil fuels. And until we make it that there is an incentive for renewable energy and a disincentive, or at least level the playing field to where the true costs are exposed and charged for fossil fuels compared to renewable energies, we're going to keep going with that. So it takes folks like you, folks like us, coming out on a Saturday morning to say, hey, no. This is not, we're not headed in the direction that we want to do. And there's several, there's just so many ways that we can do that. And I encourage you all to keep being involved after today, because it just takes consistency. And we've seen some positive results out of Naples, right? We really have. I mean, they, if they were going to drill here, right here, then in our lake, I remember back in 2010, somebody said, okay, no drilling in our lake, no drilling in our lake, right? But if they were, we would be like, whoa, wait a minute, and all of Tallahassee would be out, because we wouldn't want that. Well, we don't want that for our neighbors and our loved ones. So because this is so last minute, I know that there are some folks who have maybe a poem that they'd like to read. Maybe Ron, you'd like to say something. So we're just going to be real low key, and we are getting everything on video and hopefully pictures. Pictures? You have my...
I've taken like 20 pictures.
All right, he's taking 20 pictures. So, and we're going to share that with the larger organization, and put it up, just out there, so that we are part of that, and they're going to create conglomerates of things and pictures and show that, hey, wow, on top of all these other things, this one had, what have we got? Maybe 35 folks out. So anyway, Elaine, I know you've got a poem. Would you like to?
I do. Hi, you guys. I'm Elaine Grace. My husband Bill's a volunteer with Clean Energy. I'm a native Floridian, and I grew up in Tampa, and the golf was so important in my life. Every wonderful thing that I ever did has memories related to the golf. And now I have my sister's ashes are there, and now my brother's ashes are there. And so it really, really hurt me deep inside, as I know it did you all when the oil spill happened. It just moved me so much. And at the time, I was going through also a very emotional period, having just lost my sister. So I'm going to try to read this poem that I wrote then, without my glasses. I call it Requiem for My Dream of the Gulf. Beside her shores I grow old and once was young. I lay on my flat belly in youth, turning brown while my sister blisters. I met my first love on her soft shore while gentle waves pulsed in time with my heart. I swam naked in her warmth with my baby in my belly, then felt his presence for the first time in stillness on her shore. I longed for her gentleness when far away on northwest shores, her cold and roiling cousin did not invite me in. I watched her joyful children play and dance across the waves to my applause. I gave her my only sister's ashes so that she could join our cerulean sister. where our best memories collided with all the salty tears of joy and sorrow. She represents all my treasures, mysteries, and desires. Oh, forgive us, please, my sister sea, our ignorance and greed. Comfort your dying children in your deep blue-green love and live on in our dreams. Hopefully she is recovering from this time, but I know a lot of you felt that same deep sorrow when that happened to our sister. So that's just, I wanted to share it with you since we're remembering that, and we're remembering that we don't want to see anything like that happen again. Thank you.
Thank you.
So my name is Ron Saff, and I'm a local allergy and asthma physician, and I'm with the group Physicians for Social Responsibility. And we talked a lot about climate change, but what I need to underscore is the health impacts. There's going to be increase in heat strokes, there's going to be an increase in asthma attacks, an increase in amount of infectious diseases. Already around the state, we're seeing conditions, medical illnesses like dengue, which we've never seen before in the state of Florida, but because of the increase in temperature, the mosquitoes are coming in from South America and the southern parts of the earth into Florida and causing this horrible illness. So global warming, it poses a threat to human health, and in fact one of the British medical journals or British medical organizations stated that global warming was one of the biggest threats to health of the 21st century. So let's keep in mind that there's profound health impacts. As an asthma doctor, I see too many asthma attacks occurring on a weekly basis. And the more air pollution we have, the more asthma attacks we're going to have.
And how about the chemtrails? Are you familiar with the chemtrails?
I'm sorry?
The chemtrails.
I'm not, that's areas outside of my expertise. I would also like to remind everybody that in the world of environmental activism, a delay should be really considered a victory. And you've probably heard that a Nebraska judge said that the TransCanada doesn't have the right to declare eminent domain, therefore stopping the Keystone Pipeline through going through the state of Nebraska. So the bottom line is that the vote on Keystone has been delayed until after the November election. So we should be very proud that we've opposed Keystone and that the people in Washington have actually listened. So when we get together and speak out loudly and work together, good things actually do happen. And I also want to mention another victory that we have. Representative Ray Rodriguez, a Florida legislator, actually wanted to pass a bill allowing the oil and gas industries to disguise the hundreds and hundreds of harmful chemicals that are used in the fracking process, to hide those from the public and to keep those as trade secrets. So if somebody got ill from drinking fracking contaminated water, we would never be able to find out what the cause of it was, because the ingredients would be kept secret. And Brian and a bunch of others, we met with Ray Rodriguez, and he looked us in the eye and he said, my bill is going to pass, and it's going to pass this session. And with a lot of work and with a lot of help and with a lot of support from a lot of people standing right here, we were able to defeat Ray Rodriguez's pro-fracking bill. So, we're quite proud of that. And again, the message is if we work together, if we network, if we pool our energy, if we keep doing things like this, all this helps. And my final point is that Brian Lee is running for office, and he needs all of our support. So I'd encourage you to please donate to his campaign.
Thank you.
And who are you with,
I
sir?
did not pay for this message.
I'm with Physicians for Social Responsibility.
All right. Does anybody else? I see we have Ocean. Are you everybody in Ocean?
I'm actually the Sierra Club.
You're Sierra Club.
Yeah.
There we go.
I just happen to be wearing a shirt.
Huh? You have a poem? Okay. Wonderful.
Okay, this is
Wait.
called.
Sorry. Okay.
This is called "And the Trees Talk to Me." And the trees talk to me in their whispered voices. Can you hear their plea? The roots run deep through the earth in time. Their hearts beat as one. Their arms reach out to the heavens above. In the very palm of their hand, they hold the sun. Their very breath is life. Yet lonely is their voice, lost amongst the forest of humanity. We heed not their cries. We listen not to their warnings. They are dead to us, objects to use, a means to an end. Yet, I hear their plea. I feel their pain stretching back through generations. The end is nigh, they whisper, as they wither away leaf by leaf. We hold up the sky. If all of our arms shall fall, then the earth will surely die. So, fellow denizens of this planet, let us heed their sage words and curb our selfish desires. Either we shall live with a few wants, or the earth shall want for our soul forever.
And do you have anything to say about the Sierra Club and what's its mission
I missed the
statement?
beginning of this, so I'm not sure what's been said already, but it's nice to see that so many people come out for Hands Across the Sand. Last year, we didn't have this big of a turnout at the Capitol. Grassroots organization, and telling your senators, your congressmen, how you feel about fracking, about offshore drilling, about fossil fuels in general. That's the most important thing. That's where all this activism is coming from, and that's what's making a difference. So we need to keep it up. Everyone needs to stay in
Does
contact.
Sierra Club have a mission statement?
If they do, I don't know what it is.
I'm
I'm sure they do,
It's a
but
little
you'd
long.
have to get the state. I'm from the local chapter.
I know, yeah, somebody was actually looking to connect with you, so it's great that you're here. Does anybody else have anything that they want to, oh, yes, and just 1 minute, but no, stay here. So, as far as just kind of thinking in terms of what you were just saying about the different bills and what Ron said, we do currently in the state of Florida have a vacuum. We've defeated those bills that Ron was referring to, which were very bad bills, but we don't have anything in the state of Florida that prevents them from fracking. In fact, DEP publicly said oil drilling, gas drilling is legal in the state of Florida, so that's not what the discussion is about, right? So, so we're working to educate a lot of people. I don't know, how many people heard for the first time that they are fracking in Florida today? Anybody? So, and you guys are primarily educated, and a lot of you have been educated by me or Ron. So, so it's not surprising that we didn't have that we have a small number, but a lot of people don't know. So we're working to educate a lot in terms of what fracking is and its impacts and its health impacts and its other impacts, its water use impacts. And then we're also working longer term, hopefully by 2015 session, to get a moratorium on fracking in Florida in place. So that's one thing that we're working on. And then, is there anybody that can speak to the federal level and the fracking on public lands? Are you able to? So John can speak to that.
John! I wanted to say something else
Okay,
on a
John,
political
John.
note. I just got word that over in Panama City today, Alvin Peters showed up at a meeting where Steve Sutherland was, asked him a question on climate change. He refused to answer and tossed him out of the meeting.
Oh,
So, just to let you know, that's kind of the representation we have in Washington right now, and a number of us are working to change that, and of course to help work and further educate Gwen Graham on a number of these environmental issues.
Absolutely.
So just let you know, that's got to change, that has to happen. Of course, Scott goes around and talks about, he's not a scientist, and of course he isn't doing anything to help the situation either. That's another change that needs to happen here in the state, that we're going to have a chance to work on both here locally on.
so definitely educate yourself and educate your friends. And
And educate your elected officials.
yes, and educate your elected officials.
like Marco Rubio who thinks climate change.
We actually have a lot of folks in Florida that are representing or in Florida that don't believe that climate change is human caused for sure.
Would it be appropriate to speak about the rising sea level in Florida? Because Paul Krugman wrote an editorial on the 15th of this month about the rising sea level and the dogmatic position of the entire GOP party, now the majority, that is denying climate change. But I'm wondering about the rising sea level and what's going to happen to the state.
So Brian did a kind of a interesting little postcard that we'll have. We're actually going to be over at the solar, at Al Simpler's solar. He's got a survival thing, which is geared toward maybe a different sector of the population than what we would normally, than probably what's represented here, although I don't make any assumptions. So I do encourage you to go out there because there'll be a lot of interesting things and neat things to look at solar-wise. But Brian did a post, and we'll have that postcard out there. Brian did a postcard that was a representation, but you know, it was in a kind of cartoony style. But basically, a lot, you know, Miami, kind of north to the Everglades. You've got the Tampa area, gone underseas with a 2 meter sea level rise. In addition, you've got the problem of the encroachment of salt water into our aquifer, which is already something that's occurring. So those are both big issues. Here in Tallahassee, we are in the right place, and we will end up having, what do you call it, coastline. We'll have the coastline here. So if you bought, in the right place, then maybe you'll have a beach house, but that probably doesn't offset all the other things that we're going to be dealing with here in Tallahassee.
We live at the bottom of a hill, so we're going to have a nice coral reef in our yard eventually.
Maybe you should buy a yellow submarine.
Perhaps.
So sea level rise is actually something that you can bridge that gulf with people who are not always, but sometimes you can bridge that gulf with people who won't necessarily talk to you about climate change. But they'll talk about sea level rise, because sea level rise is a huge issue here in Florida. So that's a good thing to educate yourself on more.
Yeah, there's one other thing about South Florida is built on limestone, and it's very porous.
Right.
So there's really no way. There's no way they could ever put in dikes and levees like they do in the Netherlands. It's going to come in underneath.
Right. It already is. Yes. I was actually down at a sea level rise conference in November when they had their first flood, not from the waters above, but because of a sea level or high tide. They called it a king tide. And we were at a sea level rise conference, and they said breaking news, and then they showed pictures of houses that were flooded as a result of the high tide. And so that's happening regularly in Miami and Fort Lauderdale and the Keys. So it's now. Climate change is now. Right. So all right. Corinne has a song.
Just briefly, just wanted to talk politics, not my own thing, but we do need to educate our elected leaders, and I'm not just talking about the ones that we feel like aren't on our side. I'm not just talking about Rubio and Sutherland. They're going to be way harder to educate, but we need to educate the people that we think are already on our side, that are going out there all the way up to the Oval Office and saying that fossil fuels need to be part of our all of the above energy future. This is people that claim that they recognize that climate change is an imminent danger to the United States and to the world, and are still continuing policies of dangerous extraction and use of fossil fuels throughout the country and throughout the world, and encouraging that for as long as they can do it. So we need to be talking to the people running for office and in office that are already claiming to be on our side and already claiming to believe in climate change and environmental issues, because they need the education the most, because they've got already, the voice from us saying, do something about this. We need to be louder and say do something about this now.
There's one final thing is, you know, we talk about the need for more renewables and less of need for fossil fuels. And this work actually has been scientifically pioneered by a professor by the name of Mark Jacobson out of Stanford University. And he's actually working with New York State to take some of these concepts of deriving all our electricity from wind, water, solar, and conservation. So this is already, the education is already happening in New York, and you all can educate yourselves. There's a plan that Mark Jacobson and the Stanford University professors have come out with for each state and what each specific state can do. And all that information can be found on solutionsproject.org, solutionsproject.org. So there is a plan. It's not pie in the sky. We do have a plan. It's a plan we should all rally behind.
It's a plan that can be implemented by the year 2050.
100% renewable power worldwide for all purposes by 2050.
So it's doable. They say the Solutions Project, the only thing that is standing in the way is politics and social awareness. So
Politics and oil.
Well, social awareness, and yes. Politics, that's part of politics, right?
Oh, is it? Or is it business?
Well.
Is there a difference?
Yes, I know.
So, so my thought for your song is if we all join hands, and we'll join hands in a circle and then we'll spread out. But if you'll teach us the song, then I think that would be a nice way to do it. And one more thing about the Solutions Project, and that is, let's make sure, maybe if that edge will come off the sidewalk a little bit, just so people can get by. The Solutions Project does have that plan for all 50 states. They've done an in-depth plan for California, New York, and one other state. So it doesn't hurt if you go on their website to just send them a note saying, hey, do a detailed plan for Florida next.
It's done.
We want that. We've been talking to them, but if we get, a few folks out there just saying, hey, we'd really like to see that detailed plan for Florida. We're an important state for a lot of reasons. So,
but we need to work from the bottom up. I mean, I'm from Thomasville, Georgia. It's a small town, and the county's small too. But I'm working with the city council, and the county commission, and I'm doing what I can to have them plan for the future. And they're very Republican. They're very much deniers, many of them. And so I don't talk about climate change. I talk about the future of our city, and we need to do that from the bottom up.
Very nice. All right, so she's gonna start, and I heard her singing last night, so she's gonna, I'm sure she does have a beautiful voice, and I'll join as soon as I can.
The thinking behind it is it's actually a union song, but I do feel that we are sort of a union, right? Because alone we are nobody, but together we can do a lot, and that's what this song is about. It's called Step by Step. Does anybody know it? It's a Pete Seeger song. It's very simple. So I'll just sing it, and I'll just sing it like a couple of times, and just join in when you feel comfortable. Step by step, the longest march can be done, can be done. Many stones can build an arch, singly none, and by union as we will, can be accomplished still. Many drops can turn a mill, singly none. So, step by step, the longest march can be done, can be done. Many stones will build an arch, singly none, and by union what we will can be accomplished still. Many drops can turn a mill, singly none, singly none. One more time. Step by step, the longest march can be done, can be done. Many stones can build an arch, singly none, singly none. And by union what we will can be accomplished still. Many drops can turn a mill, singly none, singly none. Thank you. Thank you.